Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on today's show, it's going to be an episode of Car Stories, and it's going to revolve around the old Pontiac G8. You may remember this particular machine, an import from Australia, basically the Holden Commodore. Now here's the trick, a little bit of a backstory. About 3 or 4 years ago, I actually purchased the current automobile that I own, Motor Cars HQ's own shop truck. Now the trick was I bought this thing in the dumbest way you possibly could. And it's a way a lot of folks actually buy automobiles nowadays, but definitely not a way a car guy should have done this, or a car lady in that matter. I bought this car on a story. The sheer fact that I was refueling it the night I was bringing it home, realizing that I had owned it for a month and a half and had never even sat in it, never driven it, nothing. It was a weird situation. It was all around the time when my mother was passing away, so things were pretty hectic, and I just had to get me a vehicle, and vehicle quick, because the vehicle I had been owning for, gosh, near 20 years actually had broke down. I decided I wasn't going to actually replace it, at least not right away. I was renting cars. I actually ended up selling the car before I even bought another vehicle. That being said, it was the dumbest way you could. I bought this car. The guy that owned it at the time was a body shop guy. There was some rust on the vehicle. He said, I'm going to fix it before I get it to you. So a month and a half later, I finally get this vehicle. And yeah, and it's been a long, long time. Near 20 years since I've actually owned a vehicle that didn't have just 4 cylinders. And in fact, the last time I owned one that had higher than 4 cylinders, I had a 10-cylinder pickup truck. Now here's the trick. I had kind of decided around Christmas I was going to get a V8. And I thought, I haven't had a V8 in a long, long time. So that's where the G8 actually comes in. Now the trick was I wasn't really looking for a G8. I was looking for something a little bit different. And I'd actually found an automobile, but thanks to the old injury in the first part of the year, which kind of made me less than ideal as far as mobility was concerned, a trip that was going to be 160 miles one way to go take a peek at this car was not really possible, even though they were chopping money off this car left and right every week. I would take a peek at it on the old internets. So finally I decided I'm going to go look at this car. I'm going to finally go do it, feeling good enough I can actually go. And the car ends up selling. So that particular weekend, off was looking for another project and looking around at several different V8 options. And the old G8 came to mind, and it was kind of right in my wheelhouse for the G8 GT. And oddly enough, I found one. 14 miles from Motor Cars HQ, which is fantastically close. In fact, I found it on a Sunday and thought, Monday, I'm going to go look at this car. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in owning this machine, but you never know. So let's go take a peek and just see just what exactly this vehicle is all about. So I end up at this dealership. It's very, very cold outside, but they have indoor actual facility inside this. It's one of the largest indoor showrooms on the planet. They have a massive amount of used vehicles inside, climate controlled, so it's easy to get in and out of. So I found the automobile and found a salesman, oddly enough, who really, really wanted me to take a ride in this automobile and drive it, but like I told him, I'm just here to just take a peek at it. I'm not really super interested, but just want to see. Obviously, I'm a fat man, so obviously they'll have a lot of vehicles that I can't fit in. But inside of this automobile, tons of room. It fit real nice. The interior was in really good shape on the automobile. I was under the car taking a peek, seeing it wasn't leaking any fluids from either side. The engine bay looked clean and tidy. The salesman ends up telling me it was a doctor who actually owned the automobile. So I'm assuming it wasn't hot rodded a fantastic amount. He was basically using it for to and fro from his doctor's office. And the fact was he was actually going to give it to his young son, 16 years old, and thought better of it. You know, a 6.1 liter LS V8 powered rear wheel drive automobile might not be the best thing for a young man just getting in behind the wheel. So he actually traded the automobile in on a brand new Cruise and gave that to the kid instead. So here I sit in front of this automobile, checking it out inside and out. The salesman, who's actually kind of working the phones. They've got a wireless mobile, so he's working the phones for any customers that are calling in. So he's kind of talking to me, kind of talking on the phone at the same time. And then I thought, you know what? I haven't looked in the trunk of this automobile. So I look around for the button that will actually pop the rear boot. Cannot find it, but the keys actually are in the center console. So I grab the keys, hit the old fob. I hear the trunk release. I walk around to the back of the automobile, placing my fingers underneath the rear spoiler, which is a pretty small little piece on the back of the automobile, and lift. The spoiler rips off in my hand, except I didn't have a very good hold of it. So up into the air it goes. I am freaking out. This spoiler comes crashing down. Thankfully, I actually caught it as it kind of hit the deck lid of the car and almost got to the floor. Just as I had done this, you could see the salesman actually in my peripheral vision in the background going, "Yep, looks like you just bought this car." Yes, indeed. I felt awful about the situation. I didn't just rip these things off from the clips. I ripped this spoiler in half. It was unbelievable. The actual bottom half of it was still stuck to the deck lid itself. The top half was just sheared free. Salesman was really cool about the situation. Like, nah, dude, these things just happen, and everything. He said, we got the body shop across the way. I knew that for a fact, mainly because I've done a fantastic amount of work inside of this organization. Oddly enough, the next day, still feeling a little bit terrible about the situation, not to mention telling the story over and over again to anybody who would listen, because it's obviously a pretty hilarious story. Ends up that one of the guys that works in the body shop come by the very next day to get some work done on his particular vehicle. As I was working on it, I called the guy over and said, listen, have you seen a black Pontiac G8 GT sitting inside the body shop? And he goes, yeah, one of the other guys is working on it. I was like, yep, that was my fault. Totally 100% my fault. So oddly enough, I still don't own a Pontiac G8. And in fact, just a couple of days later, they actually end up selling the car. So it wasn't that too big a deal. But obviously, a pretty hilarious little story. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. Links down in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time. Get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.